Hey everybody, welcome to the SkyLounge, and this is Cruise Peruse, episode number 78. Really early in the fucking morning. I got about 2.5 hours of sleep right now. Very tired. But here we are, boys and girls. Here we are, repping out the American flag, because we love this country. And I'm going to start off the morning with a bit of a saltier update. So watch your sodium intake, boys and girls. The U.S. men's national team, you know, if there was ever a middle child of disappointment, that would be them. The U.S. women's national team, what they exhibit on the pitch is excellence, a little bit of arrogance, but the product on the pitch speaks for itself. U.S. men's national team, kind of a different story. A lot more egocentric and arrogant than you would imagine, but without any of the fucking results. And last night, for me, was a pretty... Oh, God, that is a dead thing or whatever. That's gross. Oh, no, that's a bag of fucking peanuts. But I digress. The U.S. men's national team beat Panama yesterday. 1-0. Panama! Yeah, that Panama. Well, technically not that Panama, but you know what I'm talking about, boys and girls. And so the U.S. wins 1-0 on a Josie Altidore bicycle kick. And I know Fox Soccer and everybody was freaking out. Like, oh my God, Josie Altidore finally, you know, ended his goal drought. He scored a fucking goal. Whoop-de-fucking-do. To me, as significant Panama has been over the last year and a half, I mean, come on, they went to the World Cup. We didn't, right? I know they got dick punched out of the round, you know, the group stages in the men's World Cup last year, but the reality is, with the money, resources, and everything, the USA should beat Panama comfortably, relatively comfortably than we would hope for. But to me, what they exhibited yesterday was just purely mind-boggling and frustrating football. And I'll tell you right now, and I've emphasized this point before, if the USA men's national team can't win the Gold Cup, I think it's a disaster. I truly do believe that, and I know that seems like a bit of hyperbole right now. It's only the Gold Cup, yada, yada, yada. But you have to really think about the context of what's been happening, right? 2017, we couldn't qualify because we lost to Trinidad and Tobago. And over the last year and a half, nearly 2 years, we haven't been in any competition, any international or, you know, confederation-recognized competition. So the USA comes in here with just friendlies, results on friendlies, which, to be honest, even before this tournament, it was terrible. We're losing fucking battles we shouldn't be losing. And I've got to think, you know, if you're a USA fan and you truly do, you know, watch all these Gold Cup shit, I'd be concerned. Because that, to me, you know what that says? If they don't win it, that's just a culmination of mediocrity and more failure. Right? If they get to the finals, I don't care. To me, they have to win. And that would be a really good statement that would take themselves, that would take them a long way, really. That's what I truly do believe. You know, if they muster a result in this competition, win the Gold Cup, I believe it speaks to everybody, you know, that says, listen, guys, I know we've been missing in competitions, but we take the shit seriously. We want to win. That's the statement I want to see. But to be quite frank, you know, after yesterday, I just thought, wow, this team is pretty mediocre. This team is unimpressive. And yeah, like I said, it's the fucking middle child that has all the that has garnered all the disappointment for the right reason, and just silently does nothing. I know that's a bad analogy, but come on, man. 7 in the morning, I'm trying to fucking figure this shit out. But yeah, they seriously just whimpered out a result there. and I'm kind of unimpressed to say the least. And the Gold Cup going on. I also have my eyes fixed on the Copa America. The quarterfinals start today, as does the Women's World Cup. England versus Norway should be today, early in the afternoon, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, boys and girls. And yeah, I mean, football is in full gear. You got domestic football in Europe, domestic as in relative, in Europe. They have just transfer rumors going around everywhere, and so I always say this. I mean, whether it's transfer rumors in Europe, in football, or free agency in American sports, guys, the reality is, don't fucking believe everything you hear, right? Until it comes from the official source, I'm not really a believer. I'm more of a guy that says, all right, rumors are rumors. Maybe some are substantiated, maybe some are not. And we just have to figure out that fine balance, right? We got to figure out that fine balance. And most of the times, it's a lot of conjecture. It's a lot of bullshit. But when it happens, like when the trade, or buy or release happens, it's a bit of a shock. I mean, especially if it's a player that you like. And so, with that said, the Vegas Golden Knights traded forward Erik Haula to the Carolina Hurricanes for, I forget his name already. It's like Roy. Yeah, I know his last name is Roy, because he's born in Quebec and all that. But he's a forward that played in the Charlotte Checkers, a minor league affiliate, AHL affiliate of the Carolina Hurricanes. And the Vegas Golden Knights get back Roy and a conditional 2021 fifth round pick. And I've got to say, this is a great trade for both teams. I know people are going to shit on Vegas for just putting ourselves in a cap hell situation. But the reality is, if you want to win now, which, let's be honest, Vegas consistently going 2 years in the playoffs, that speaks to me about consistency and excellence and potential potential contenders, really. Once you're in the playoffs, I feel like it's anyone's game. So, with all that said, it's a great move for a salary dump, which was about, $2.5 million on the cap hit. And you get back a player on an entry-level contract, probably like a bottom six forward, I guess, when we need to experiment a little bit. A lot of great upsides. A lot of great upsides to this cat. From what I hear, great forechecking, just good two-way player. That fits our game. That fits Vegas's game. And a conditional fifth-round pick may be very beneficial. I mean, we saw how many fifth-round picks we just had in the 2019 NHL draft with the Vegas Golden Knights. So, boys and girls, I know if you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, I know it hurts. I mean, I liked Erik Haula too. Erik Haula was a fucking warrior, and every time he stepped on that ice, he wore his game on his sleeves, man. It was fucking beautiful to watch him play. And unfortunately, when he went down with that injury, and couldn't recover. I mean, he was out for most of the season. And thankfully, he looks like he's recovered well, and I really do hope the best for him. Because that, I'll say one thing right now. Unless you're a player that's really like shit on the Vegas Golden Knights organization within the first 2 years as a player, unless you're that, I'm gonna cheer for you. I want you to do well. Unless you go to like fucking San Jose or some shit, or like what Brandon Leipzig did, like go to fucking LA Kings. I'm like, you fucking idiot. I ain't good on you for making the money, but the Kings. But anyways, Erik Haula is gone. Boys and girls, let's just accept that, okay? And I know people on social media, they tend to overreact. They tend to get all crazy. But I always say this, if it's for the greater good, and if you can legitimately get yourselves into contention spot, it's all worth it. And we've seen this in countless championship teams. We have, right? Inherent sacrifices that need to be made in order for the team to thrive. I mean, for God's sakes, William Karlsson's contract was basically a greater good kind of situation. And that that was a blessing. It really was. Now we got Erik Haula, who, yeah, I mean, he's coming off of a long-term injury, relatively speaking, which took him out for most of the season. But we don't know what his status is going to be. And it might be a kind of dick thing to say, but we got a lot of good young prospects, a lot of good young players who have come up right now. Namely, a young man by the name of Nikita Gusev, who I believe Vegas should sign no matter what. Also, Jimmy Schultz, the NCAA player that we picked up later in the season. Late in the season, I believe it was like around the playoffs and shit. Right before the playoffs, we picked up Jimmy. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of pieces that Vegas has to figure out. And in my opinion, with the David Clarkson contract about to, potentially hit long-term injured reserve, which means that $5.25 million cap hit would be gone. Or is it 5.75? I don't really remember. But once that cap hit is gone, Vegas is freed nearly $7.8 million in cap space from those two players alone. Now, I'm a bit of a cunt. I mean, I don't know if you boys and girls have figured that out yet, but I truly do believe in if you can provide me, plans and legitimate, blueprints as to if we can, win or not. If you can show me that, great, I'm all for it. And so if you can kind of go on this ruthless manner of, player acquisition and salary dump, I'm all for it. I mean, we don't really know Roy's game. He's only played a couple of NHL games based on those. Oh boy, well, it's a hockey reference I looked up yesterday. He's only had less than a dozen appearances in the professional level, but NHL professional level. But let's also not forget, boys and girls, the Charlotte Checkers actually just won the Calder Cup final, right, against our AHL affiliate, the Chicago Wolves. And yeah, Charlotte/Carolina, we're looking to, have a fire sale on that team. And for us, I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a salary dump. It's a pure salary dump. And it sucks now, but like I said, if it's for the greater good and you can provide me details and blueprints as to how we're going to get to potential championship and contention, I'm all for it. I am. And the other players I would list personally to trade off would be Colin Miller and Nick Holden, purely from a number standpoint. If you also want to provide another number there, I'd put Cody Eakin. And I know all those guys, even Holden, I mean, who's only been with us for a season. If you can remove off $9.3 million in cap space, which those three occupy together, right? I think Vegas would really help itself out. They could potentially, sign all their guys that they need to, and, keep their future relatively bright in terms of the franchise players they want to keep, like Jonathan Marchessault, Mark Stone, and William Karlsson and Marc-Andre Fleury, and figure out which supporting pieces we need to strengthen, what depth, where we need depth in. Because let me tell you what, man, sports is all about replicating success. It generally is. You wanna, it's like any business, you wanna just fucking copy successful people, right? You wanna emulate success, because ultimately success is what you should thrive for. And we just saw the St. Louis Blues and Boston Bruins exhibit a lot of great championship behavior. It went down to Game 7, but both teams are tremendously commendable in what they have done. Like Don Sweeney, I remember during the NHL awards, he won GM of the Year because it made sense. He had 37 active players on that roster throughout the season, and Sweeney's trading acumen and being able to figure out team chemistry, and that also goes to how well Bruce Cassidy was coaching them, but it was absolutely key. And for St. Louis's case, they took a risk in taking Ryan O'Reilly, for that first round pick, and it paid off dividends, right? So it's all about finding the right pieces and, finding that right opportunity. And sometimes it takes a little tinkering. It really does. And in this case, it takes sometimes heartbreaking variables to perhaps get us to that edge. But, ultimately we want to win. And it does suck because I did like Erik Haula. He was one of those key pieces within our first 2 years that got us to where we are, to the successful franchise that we are. And I know people might just bring up the first round exit, but to be honest, an expansion team that makes the playoffs 2 years in a row, my God, my fucking God. Could you have told me that, 10, 20 years ago it made sense? No, because I wouldn't have watched sports back then. But for an expansion team to be that impressive right out the gates, it's unbelievable. And if you're a Vegas fan, trust me, this is part of the process of hurting, growing, and watching your team. And I know, man, I know all y'all don't feel great. It's perusing through the YouTubes, and my go-to hockey guys are VGK coverage and Shannon, the hockey guy, and he's just called the hockey guy. So those two guys give me great perspective in the world of hockey, and I give them tremendous kudos for helping me out, indirectly or directly. And I was vibing with VGK coverage yesterday because it was a sad occasion. It was kind of a shocking occasion. Shocking in the sense of like, wow, I can't believe like he's gone. But at the same time, the logic in me is like, it's what must be done. It's what must be done. And I might come across as like a cold-hearted bastard. But how do you want to win? There's a great quote by the former Detroit Pistons coach Chuck Daly, right? And this wasn't the 30 for 30 documentary. It was a 30 for 30 documentary about the bad boys, Detroit Pistons. And Chuck Daly would ask point guard Isaiah Thomas, all right, do you want to have fun out there, or do you want to win? Because there's a difference, right? Yes, you can have fun while you're winning. But honestly, I want to see our boys just focus up, get shit done, and treat every game like it's their last game, right? We saw some parts of last season where the boys exhibited just absolute complacency, lackluster performances all throughout. But my ultimate hope is that with this shakeup that will potentially still happen, I still believe there's like 2-3 moves that's still waiting to happen. That's my opinion. But once they do happen, I'm really hoping Vegas takes the shakeup very seriously and says, guys, we got to figure shit out now. We got to figure shit out. And I hear some of you fucking people thinking, because call me Charles Xavier, I can read minds, right? Well, I can hear you fucking people thinking, you're a Vegas fan. The franchise has only been around for barely 3 years. Why do you want a championship? Because winning is fucking intoxicating, right? And I'll tell you one thing. As a Lakers fan, I have watched my team win 5 championships in my lifetime. 5. 3 of them was back to back to back. Okay? Not a lot of fans can say that. And do you understand how unbelievably sweet and beautiful winning is? It's fucking awesome. I've seen my teams win a couple of times, really, in reality, because most of my teams suck dick. But winning is everything. And I know that's a very utilitarian philosophy, and I hold myself to that. That's the kind of philosophy I like to watch sports in, and I know it's not how real life works, because there's so many other variables and dynamics that come into play, like people living in a community, how they've affected the community. So let me just end it off with this. Erik Haula, we appreciate everything you've done for the Vegas Golden Knights organization. As a fan, I can only say thank you. we love you, and we only wish you the best in the Carolina Hurricanes, and we hope you kick ass with a bunch of jerks, right? They were Eastern Conference finalists. They haven't been to the playoffs in 10 years, 9 years, and look at where they are. I hope Erik Haula comes back from that injury, does well, kicks a lot of ass, and hey, maybe like Perron, we'll see him lift a cup, but hopefully we can lift a cup before that. So, boys and girls, that's it for me. I'm at my house parked. So follow me at the Sky Lounge on all the links in the description below. Like, comment, subscribe for more daily contents. Now fuck off.